We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes are formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. Edward Bernays. Hello and welcome back to Searching the Archives. So, have you ever heard the term doom scrolling before? It's basically when you're sitting in bed and you're just endlessly scrolling on your cell phone, news articles, social media, with each passing headline, more and more tension and anxiety filling your life. I've noticed it's becoming a thing, and it's basically like drinking salt water to quench your thirst. It's like, I know I don't want to be doing this, but why is it so hard to put down my device? The truth is, you're not just battling your own willpower, you're also up against billion-dollar machines that have been programmed and designed specifically to keep you engaged and locked into these digital platforms. It's part of the reason it's so hard to put them down. When I walk around and I observe everyone around me, myself included, walking through the store, scrolling on my phone, I often feel like a dense cloud of digital influence has descended on us all, and it's hanging over everything. Our devices have become a sort of virtual battleground where various ideologies are constantly competing to gain control or influence over your mind in a Nietzschean power struggle, if you will. If you spend any significant amount of time online, you must understand that you're wading into this arena. And if you don't understand the tactics that are at play, it's like you're walking into direct cannon fire completely without any armor or protection. The point of this video is to show how subtle psychological warfare is being carried out on you and your loved ones. This isn't meant to be a political video. I'm going to use a political example to illustrate my point, but the same thing can be said for anything online about science, about faith, about politics, really about anything at all. So let's dive in and take a look. So I recently came across this Associated Press article about recent political campaigns in the United States. And I thought this article was an excellent example of how mass media has been weaponized to influence the populace. This specific article really attempts to paint the Republican side in a very poor light. And I would say it follows three basic rules, and you see this repeated ad nauseum online. Number one, you prepare the viewer. Number two, you do a pair bonding, a subtle pair bonding of a term to an emotion. And number three, you poison the well before the reader leaves the page. So rule number one, prepare the viewer. You can see the title of this. It's an inflammatory headline, election denier, right? The idea here is most people are skimming news headlines, and this is the sort of hook that's going to draw the user in. It's meant to evoke emotions. It's meant to stir and stoke and inflame and get someone to click the page. And this brings us to rule number two, which is called pair bonding. So the idea is right at the top of the article, you want to use the phrase or categories Donald Trump or Republican. And what that does is, to their audience, it associates a negative emotion to a category. It sort of crystallizes this mental link, and over the course of time, it's strengthened. This bond is strengthened. It really plays off people's emotions. When someone's stirred up, they're looking for a source or a way to resolve it. And what you're doing is you're kind of identifying the culprit as a category. And so, again, as they read these articles over the course of time, this pair bonding is strengthened and strengthened and strengthened. And it creates a visceral, almost hate of the other. So after that association happens, the person is most likely ready to leave the page. They're not going to read the article. And so what you do is you leave a unflattering picture to poison the well, to kind of be the last thing that the viewer sees before they walk out the door. And again, it's all about strengthening that distaste over time across a variety of news sources. Where you put your weight as a journalist can influence people massively. So if you're doom scrolling, this series of events is playing itself out over and over again to you and to probably likely your loved ones as well, your friends, your family, maybe even your children. I sometimes think about it and it's like the most rudimentary form of censorship is to actually censor and hide information. I mean, this is the actions of tin pot dictators. It's very basic. Much more effective to leave the information out in the public, gain control over the mass media, and then very artfully and selectively place your weight where you want it, and over time, very subtly, influence everyone. So many of you probably already recognize a lot of this. I mean, fear, anxiety, tension, it's all being stoked on an unprecedented level, but there's some good news here. The good news is once you identify these tactics, you can see them everywhere. And it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. Once you've peeked behind the curtain and you see what's actually happening, number one, you can recognize it. And number two, it loses most or maybe even all of its power on you. We're human beings. We are meant to be ordered towards logos, towards logic, reason, discourse, a rightly ordered and structured life. Ordering our life around our emotions and our feelings is not the way. We're not brute beasts that are meant to be steered by instinct. I was recently watching Pints with Aquinas, and there's this guest, Stephen Rummelsburg, and he's fantastic. And he was basically, he's a very eloquent guy, and he was illustrating the difference between the children's stories of today with the medieval fairy tales of yesteryear, and basically contrasting how modern stories play off our emotions as their central key element, and the medieval stories played off logos. They played off logic in a rightly structured universe. So here's a short clip. Let's take a look.
Before we get to that, I want to talk about what it is about fairy tales that captures that well then.
Oh, I was going there.
I'm sorry.
Definitely. No, I was going there. It's a 20-hour talk.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's the right question. So the fairy tale is just that there and back again theme every time, but it's also a micro image of the universe, as all good stories ought to be. So here's the problem today, is that right now that is not our collective
narrative
cosmology.
Okay.
We would say, what's the Earth? The Big Bang happened. Why? On accident. Everything is random.
Yeah.
Nothing's
the
on
working out of mindless matter.
Yeah, they're working out. Yes, exactly. And so what our stories mimic our understanding of the universe. So our modern stories are so
chaos.
bereft. They're chaos.
Yeah.
They're organized chaos, ordered to pathos. Whereas the medieval cosmology is ordered to logos. And that's the world of difference between.
What do we mean by pathos and logos?
By pathos, we mean pathos pathology is like the emotions. Mm-hmm. The highest thing in the universe of chaos is your feelings. That shouldn't be too hard to see in the world today, is that we hold as the highest thing our feelings. The highest thing in the order of right order is logos. It's understanding, logic, reason, intellect. The very image of God on our souls is intellect. So in the modern conception, there is no God. Man becomes his own priest, prophet, and king. And when you're your own priest, prophet, and king, you can order things any way you want. And we are encouraged by society to order it to the emotions. So most modern stories are very shallow, very vapid.
This is just a short clip from an absolutely fascinating conversation. I will add a link in the description if you want to go check out the full episode. But it really gets to the classic understanding of God. Jesus Christ is the Word or the Logos incarnate as a man, and the example par excellence for us to follow. And this is the message of Christianity. This is the faith that's been handed down to us over the ages. We are weak. We have a fallen human nature, and we absolutely trend towards letting our emotions and our feelings run rampant, letting them take the wheel and drive. But God came down from heaven and took on our human nature and wrenched it into perfect order. I'd like to leave you with the mystical opening from the Gospel according to St. John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came to be through him, and without him nothing came to be. What came to be through him was life, and this life was the light of the human race. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.